talking A-State basketball, both men's and women's hoops tonight. And as always, we've got a chance for you to win big out here at Upper Crust. Our live audience, always a big part of the show. You can fill out a question card tonight with your name, your hometown, your question for either John Brady or A-State women's head coach, Brian Boyer. And first off, let's introduce.
No, hold on. That was not part of the deal. That was not the part of the deal. Was I was gonna. It said nothing about questions for me.
Well, come on now. We're kind of making this up on the fly
No,
tonight.
they got questions for Brady. I'll be happy to answer them for him or make something up or
no
whatever.
No questions for you.
No.
Not even about the big UALR game coming up on Thursday night.
Okay, if we can talk about that, I guess.
All right, I guess we could do that. Questions, we'll screen them for Coach Brady and Coach Boyer tonight. And everybody who fills out a question card in our live audience is always qualified for some great door prizes from our friends at Textbook Brokers at 2106 East Johnson in Jonesboro. We've got a Red Wolf Boulevard sign to give away, also a great-looking Red Wolf cap, an A-State basketball Adidas T-shirt to give away, and Coach Brady has also brought an A-State sweater vest. We'll be giving away a little bit later on as well. Coach Brady will join us coming up here in the next 25, 30 minutes. But, again, we are joined for the first half of the show tonight by A-State head women's basketball coach Brian Boyer. Coach, can you believe it? I mean, it was just 26 days ago where we were opening up conference play, and now you're 10 games in to a 26-game conference schedule. And I know Coach Brady's been vocal. Pretty much every coach in the league has been vocal about this crazy schedule, and we've really never seen anything like it.
No, we have not. I'm sure people are tired of hearing us talk about it. Honestly, I think we all are, and it just. But yeah, I've never seen anything like it. Games that just they come so quickly. I made a comment that earlier today, or actually been to one of my assistants, said, one of the unfortunate things about it is, we start out 5-0, playing really well. And I said, I don't think our team, our players really got to enjoy it. The games came so quickly that it almost took the fun out of winning, because you win and you really had to turn around right away the next day. You didn't even have a chance to enjoy it, enjoy the wins. And now I guess the flip side is we've had 2 losses that we didn't have time to dwell on those as well. But it has really been something, the way these games have come so quickly.
And you look at what you had to go through, and it seems like it's catching up with a lot of these teams, especially when they go on the road. And I know you didn't make that an excuse the other night at Louisiana Lafayette, but that was just your second conference loss. And again, it seemed like there were a lot of players out there that weren't at 100%, and you're having to deal with that. It really is a marathon out there.
Well, it's a reality. Now, I think this. I've said all along. All the teams are fatigued. Lafayette was just as fatigued as we were. I mean, You could see it in them just as well. But what I felt like all along through this is whichever team could get the upper hand, whichever team in the second half could get the lead and feel like they had the upper hand, the other team felt the fatigue a lot more. That's normal. It's human nature, and we've been on the positive side of that a lot too. The Texas State, the Georgia States at home, where it felt like both teams were tired, but once we got the lead, we were less tired than they were. We were enjoying the lead, and I just think it was a case where at Lafayette, they were just as tired as we were. But when we got down, it's a lot easier to feel down, a lot easier to feel sorry for yourself, a lot easier to feel that fatigue, and just harder to come back from it.
Still, 10 games into the conference schedule, you're sitting at 8-2, and if I had told you 10 games in, you'd have 8 wins at this point, would you have been happy with that?
Oh, sure, yeah, no question. So far to this point, and we've won all the home games, and we've been able to get a handful of the road ones, and which is what you would hope. So yeah, being 8-2. No question. Now, I could nitpick, and am I happy with all the performances within those? No, there's been some that I'd like to have better performances, but certainly 8 wins in the 10 first games, we'll take that.
And now you get ready for the huge challenge coming up on Thursday night as you take on first place UALR. It's first versus second in the Sun Belt, and this UALR team's dropped just 2 games all season long. They've won 10 in a row coming in, and obviously Coach Foley has a heck of a team they're going to bring in on Thursday.
Yeah, they if people look closely at what they've done, it really is amazing. They non-conference, they had a win at LSU. They've beaten an Oklahoma team that right now is winning the Big 12. In conference, they're 9-0, and of all the 9 wins, they've won by at least 20 or more. And in most of those, they were up 20 at least at halftime. So, it's not only are they winning, they're honestly they're dominating. They're just dominating. I think the latest, they're 4th in the nation defensively. He's had a lot of really good teams there, as we've seen through the years. But when I watch him, I think this may be the best that he's had. Very, very talented.
We've got some questions for you now, and I've gone ahead and screened them beforehand. Van Wilhoit is here from Jonesboro. Our buddy Van, always good to see him. He says, talk about the improvement that Khadijah Brown-Haywood has made since last season.
Well, I've talked about her a lot this year, and I've in all my years of coaching, usually you see players make big jumps, big strides between their freshman and sophomore year. That's where you see the jumps. I have never had a player do what Khadijah has done between the sophomore and junior year. Usually by the time as a sophomore, if they're not playing, it kind of sets the tone for the remainder of their career. I've never seen a player go into the off season like Khadijah and come back just a totally different player. She just did it on her own in the off season, and then part of it is she did such a good job, and we knew our entire front line was new. We shifted her from the guard to the forward spot, and she's just exploded at this position. I don't know where we would be this year were it not for Khadijah and what she's doing.
And it's really not a knock on her last year. It's just such a big improvement from last year to this year, and she's changed from another player in the rotation to somebody who's quite possibly an all-conference selection.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. She, went from not playing at all as a freshman to very limited minutes as a sophomore. And yeah, you could argue at this stage of the game, if she keeps doing what she's doing, she could quite possibly be an all-conference player. And she just does it, every day. We talk about fatigue, and we talk about, Khadijah would be one of those that you never know it. She comes in every day with bounce in her step. I'm trying to think what day it was a week ago. She was walking into the convo, and I'm like, you okay? This is after a game. She's like, yeah, why not? And she just has this energy right now. She's one of those players that I have actually last week, after practice, she wanted to stick around and shoot. I made her leave. I wouldn't let her.
You had to kick her out of the gym.
I literally kicked her out of the gym. And I said, look, Khadijah, we got 3 games this week. Get off your feet. Go home. And that's a neat feeling to have to do that to a player every now and then.
We talked about the loss at Lafayette, but your team had the quick turnaround. You bust 7 hours to Troy the next day, and then you have to play on the road again. And I know you had to be proud of what you saw the other night. 6 players in double figures. That hasn't been done in over a decade for Arkansas State. And to see so many players step up the way they did, I know had to be a huge thrill for you.
Well, it's a game where, Troy leads the league in scoring. It's a track race with them. So, in games like that, there's going to be a lot of stats on both teams. There's going to be a lot of scoring, a lot of, and all that. But to have 6 players in double figures, it was the first time since 2001 that Arkansas State's had 6 players in double figures. And those of you, I don't know how many are here or listening, remember, that game in 2001 we won in 4 overtimes over Ole Miss at home.
Oh, wow.
And there were 6 players in double figures. So we had 6 players in double figures against Troy. In 2001, we had 6 players in double figures, but it was in a game and a half.
It took 60 minutes.
It took a game and a half. Exactly. That's how long it took to put in perspective. That's what it took.
First half of the program tonight, again, we're talking with A-State women's head coach Brian Boyer. We got more questions from the audience, and we're going to talk more about the big matchup Thursday night against UALR when we come back. Stay tuned. We're live with John Brady, Red Wolves basketball. We'll continue in a moment.
Can't stop, won't stop. Where the brakes at? I give him that diddy bop. Make moves or make excuses. Don't got the power. Shut me down. That's not enough. I'm my biggest problem. Don't got the power. Shut me down. That's not enough. You can't stop me.
Brian Brady on this Monday night. We'll be talking with Coach Brady here in the next 15 minutes or so. We still got some time left with A-State women's head coach Brian Boyer as we hang out here at Upper Crust Pizza. We're on Shelby Drive in Jonesboro. Our next show will be 1 week from tomorrow, coming up on Tuesday night, February 3rd. We'll be right back here at Upper Crust Pizza. Of course, a couple of games before then. Coming up on Thursday night, the big doubleheader, women's game at 5, men's game at 7:30 out at the Convocation Center. We need you there for that big in-state showdown for both of those games. And then both Red Wolves teams will hit the road on Saturday. The women will play at 11 a.m. Central Time. The men at 1:15 as they take on Georgia State, second and final meeting of the season with the Panthers. As we have more questions now for Coach Brian Boyer, Barbara Nelson is here. And Barbara wants to know, Coach, how are the girls doing academically while dealing with this crazy schedule?
Well, we've maybe it's still too early to tell, but the one good thing is that the majority of that is probably actually the one positive that has actually happened in this is our crazy schedule. A lot of it happened before classes started, so we haven't taken the brunt of it. And actually, when you get into February, we do have the 2 byes while we are in classes. So that actually is maybe the one benefit. It hasn't been quite so bad just yet.
Gary Kinder is here from Jonesboro, and Gary wants to know about how your trip started on that crazy Lafayette-Troy swing. He wants to know about the flat tire.
Well, I can't tell you too much about it. I wasn't on the bus.
That's right. You heard about it.
Yeah, I actually had gone. I drove to Lafayette because I'd gone recruiting the night before, and but yeah, I started getting a call the next morning. And it's like, oh gosh, what's going? When anytime you get 3 text messages and a call from assistants in the morning, somebody's either not on the bus, something's not good, and it was a flat tire. Ended up not being a big deal. They got it resolved, and I think it set us back about an hour, set them back about an hour.
They weren't very far down the road either.
No, it was, just past Mark Tree, I think is where it happens.
Let's see. Ken Stewart is here from Jonesboro. He wants to know, Coach, will we play zone, man, or are we going to trap? How can we stop UALR?
Well, start out in man and mix in zone, and I think probably mix back and forth. I think the one thing you can't get too predictable with them. They motion offense that they've done for years. They read it so well, and you've got to mix things up a little bit. But last year at home we got them rattled pretty early. Our pressure, we were able to get them into some turnovers and get them out of their comfort level. And obviously that's going to be the goal to start this thing. Now whether we can, but like I said, in the end we'll probably have to mix in a little of both.
Of course, we'll see 2 of the top players in the Sun Belt Conference in that game Thursday night. Of course, Andrea Gamble, who's currently leading the Sun Belt in points, second in assists, and then Taylor Galt, who has turned into one of the better players in the league as well. She'll be on the floor for UALR, and obviously that's somebody you're going to have to worry about.
Well, she's one of the, her first year, so she at Little Rock was just awesome, all conference, and actually had some struggles last year, and it was kind of when she was having struggles that they had struggles as a team, and she's that valuable to them. And but she's having a really good year this year. Galt is one of those players that she has such a explosive jump shot that if you allow her to get into that jump shot, similar to when they had Chastity Reed a few years ago, you can't do anything with her. You just hope she misses because she's that explosive with it. So she has some tendencies that. You try to play the tendency, try to force her a certain direction, and then just hope for the best. She's that good.
And then as we talk about Drea, I know you've said it many times, it's so easy to take her for granted, but she really is obviously the best player in the Sun Belt Conference, and as a junior turned into one of the better players anywhere in the country. And anytime she's on the floor, she's got a chance to do something very special for her.
Yeah, and the thing that you've seen this year is it's been, in my opinion, what I've seen more than just the scoring is, the other night at Troy, she had a double-double. She had, double-figure scoring and 11 assists. And, when you went back and watched it, there was at least 4 shots, either layups or one that went through a player's hands right under the basket. She could have easily had 15 assists. I mean, just a great performance. Teams are keying on her so much. It's never easy. She makes it look easy, but there's never an easy game. There's never an easy minute out on the floor with her. And the other thing, too, that, Drea generally takes our toughest defensive assignment, too. And there's a good chance come Thursday she'll have to guard Galt. And, you see, we ask an awful lot of her, and she seems to deliver it.
Devin Harper asked this question. She's from Bay, and Devin wants to know, with the UALR game coming up, how do you prepare the team for the in-state rivalry? Obviously, there's new players that come in every year. How do you tell them about A-State UALR?
You really don't. That takes care of itself. I didn't even mention today. We started practice today. I didn't even mention our opponent. I didn't even mention who we were getting ready to play. But there was, 3 media outlets there at practice waiting for the players, and so that stuff takes care of itself. The players knew. The players know. They know the standings. They see the standings in the locker room. They know who's up next. That's my job. Simply is to prepare them from a basketball standpoint. Strategically, this is what you have. I don't have to talk about the opponent, in-state, anything like that.
And obviously, we need a big crowd for both of those games. And when you start at 5 o'clock, I know you're asking some people to come straight from work and get out there, but obviously the importance of getting out there at 5 o'clock is big for your team, because you need to take advantage of the home floor every time you get it.
Well, I've told people that, again, I can't remember what I said earlier here too, is that, once again, Little Rock is 9-0 in conference. They've won every game by at least 20, and in nearly every one of those, they've already been up at 20 at halftime. This game could be over by halftime. They went into Texas State and was up 24-4. That's how good they are. My point of that is, I don't need anybody showing up late. I need everybody there at the start. Take your lunch break at 4 o'clock, whatever you can. We don't need people showing up 5 minutes, 10 minutes late, because honestly, as good as this team is, it could be too late.
When you walked in the door tonight, Coach Brady was right behind you, and it was interesting watching you guys talk about your practice schedules, because there's no right answer right now.
Yeah.
You're just trying to figure things out and where your team's at and when they need rest and when to practice them harder than others. But your schedule is a little bit different from Coach Brady. So what are you doing with your team over the next couple of days as you try to get the practice schedule set?
Well, we elected to take yesterday off. We showed up today and had a real hard practice, not long, hard, even hit some weights real, light, and then we'll turn around and give them off tomorrow then, another recovery day, and then we'll go get a practice in Wednesday before Thursday. So, you just, as I've said throughout this last few weeks, really is day to day on my decisions of what we've done. I have even gone into practices with the mindset of going hard and changing my mind. I've gone into some days wanting to go light and change my mind. Mm-hmm. You've really had to, more than any time in my career, just really try to read my players, read their body language, and try to make decisions from there.
And more than anything, you're able on a day like today to actually have a full practice, and it's been a couple of weeks since you've had something like that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think is, you watch today, and you really had to be patient in a lot of ways, because we have 14 players right now. We have one that's injured, so 14 active players right now. You've got 5 or 6 of those players that aren't playing in games, and because of all these games and taking days off and going light, those 5 or 6, really, you almost go back a month since they've had just a really hard. So, we go into practice today, and honestly, there's 5 or 6 players that were just, they don't look the same, and it looks like they haven't done much. And just an interesting feeling of, you really just had to be patient with them and understand what they were going through. And, you've tried to balance, giving Drea and Hannah and Jazz and Khadijah, going light with them. But, the players aren't playing a lot, suffer a little bit. Aaron Koloff, one of my assistants, he's had a lot of those players on even game days trying to get some extra running in, treadmills, things like that in hotel, but it's not the same. So, you really have to look at the whole big picture of your team of how this has really affected them.
Because you really haven't done anything like this as far as such a brutal schedule over a 3 or 4 week stretch, do you solicit other people's advice? Do you talk to other coaches in the business to try to figure out just how they deal with a schedule like this?
I would, but I haven't found a coach that's ever been through it. I don't know anybody else
that's a good point.
No, again, you just go with your gut the best you can, and like I said, just really try to read your players, read their body language, and listen to them. No different than Coach Brady's team. We've got competitors on this team. There's none of my players that are trying. If they're telling me they're tired and they look tired, they're tired. They're competitors. They're not. So you just really try to trust and listen, read their body, and go from there.
Brian Boyer with us for just a couple of more minutes here at Upper Crust Pizza in Jonesboro. And, of course, we've been talking about UALR. You got that coming up on Thursday night. Then again, you travel on Friday and you play on the road at Georgia State. And this is a team that is starting to come on a little bit in Georgia State. They were actually on top at the Convo. You came back and were able to win it by double digits. But still, you saw that that team is not an easy chore.
Felt like last year they may have been the most talented team in the league, and they only had one senior. They had everybody back, and I in my preseason poll, I'm trying to think if I actually picked them second or I really had them high. I thought they could be. They just seemed to have some chemistry issues last year, and if they could have gotten that resolved, but and then this year they've had a lot of injuries. Actually, our game a week ago may have been their first game all year where they had their entire team in place, and we saw that because I think they had it down 8 at half. It took a huge run by us in the second half to come back and actually get the lead and win that game. So, going there, it's going to be a chore because it is a very talented team.
Coach, we appreciate you dropping by and hanging out with us tonight, and good luck coming up on Thursday and again on Saturday. And I'm glad you're able to get a little practice time in before then.
Yeah,
it's a nice change.
No question. We need it. Again, as we've talked, I hope we have a big crowd out there Thursday night. I joke, we'd love to have you there at 5 o'clock, but it doesn't matter. Just get there when you can and be ready to cheer. And we'll try to hold down the fort until you can get there. And but I appreciate Coach Brady inviting me out tonight. Let me come out here and be a part of this. It's a good show.
Put your hands together here at Upper Crust for A-State women's head coach Brian Boyer. When we come back, we'll be joined by the head coach of the Red Wolves men, John Brady. That's coming up next on Live with John Brady. This is Arkansas State basketball on the EAB Red Wolves Sports Network. we welcome you back to Upper Crust Pizza on Shelby Drive in Jonesboro. We're live with John Brady on this Monday night. Having a big time out here.
Big time.
Another good crowd. Again, we've got question cards floating around. Put your name, your hometown, your question for Coach Brady, and over the next 30 minutes, we will answer that for you. When you fill out a card, you're qualified for some great door prizes tonight. Coach, you brought a couple things with you. You got a couple of
I brought a couple of vests like we did last week. Got a
basketball vest.
Got an XL, and for some of you guys who enjoy life a little bit more, I got a 2X. So figure it out. Some of you guys who really enjoy life.
We got a Red Wolf Boulevard street sign we'll give away from Textbook Brokers, an Arkansas State basketball T-shirt, and a Red Wolf cap we'll be giving away as well. And what do you know?
Kyle Drake.
Kyle Drake.
I think this is a small for maybe one of the ladies.
Basketball operations.
What's that say right there? Small?
Let's see here. We're doing this on the fly. It is a small.
There you go. That's for the ladies.
One of the ladies will get an A-State basketball polo a little bit later on.
It's up to you, MC man.
How about Brian Boyer? He's got a lot going on right now. Just like your team, 10 conference games over the last 26 days. And
Brian's done a great job. I think he's done a great job every year he's been there. Since I've been there, I like watching his girls play. They play hard. They're well organized. He cares about them. I maybe 2 or 3 games that everybody thought he should have won a few years ago, but he's winning them now. And I think if you've got a good coach and a good guy like he is, it's going to go his way because he does too many things right. So I'm glad they're having the success they are, and I want him to come out here and talk about it. And I'm pulling for him. And they got a chance here at home Thursday, and good crowd. And crowd that comes doesn't have to leave. They can stay for our game too. So, get a ticket and come on out there and help us out.
Your team, since we've been here last, you've won 3 out of the last 5, and in 4 of those 5 games, you've held the opponent to 36% or less. When we sat here last couple of weeks ago, you wanted to see a better defensive effort out of your team, and for the most part, that's what we've seen. Your team seems to be buying into that a little bit.
Well, outside of whatever that was Thursday night in Lafayette, yeah, we've been guarding pretty good. I don't know what that was Thursday in Lafayette. I don't know what happened. Everybody says, well, you ought to know. No, you didn't know. Let me give you a stat right here. Lafayette, the game before our game, they played Monroe.
Yeah.
They were 2 for 18 from the three-point line for 11%. The game after us, they played Georgia State. They were 5 for 20 from the three-point line for 25%. So that's, in my calculation, that's 7 for 38.
Yeah.
In our game, they were 14 for 22. They had a guy make 4 threes against us that wasn't even in the scouting report.
Yeah.
He didn't even play. He played 1 minute the game previous, in the game against Georgia State. He played 1 minute, had no attempts.
Well, then their big man, Sean Long, he's shooting 27% from 3
he
on
goes
the season.
5 for 5.
5 for 5.
He's a good player, but
he is.
But not 5 for 5. So I would bet if you took those guys in the game against us, against Lafayette, that shot the 22 balls from the three-point line, and let them shoot the same ones out there unguarded, the odds are they may not make 14 unguarded. So we got bombarded, and we didn't respond well, and it was quite shocking. I had Tim Floyd call me from El Paso, Donnie Tyndall called me, the head coach at Tennessee, Kermit Davis called me, the head coach at Middle, Andy Kennedy called me from Ole Miss. They saw the score and saw the stat line, and you know what they told me? Forget about it. It can happen to anybody. It happened to you. It's not good, but don't beat your team up over it.
Yeah.
So I didn't beat them up. And we drove 7 hours the next day, and we watched the first half of the game at Lafayette. I made them watch it. And we didn't scream and throw things at each other. We just watched it. And I did stop it every now and then and made them, concentrate on some things we need to do better. Then we went to practice at Troy. We came back, watched Troy tape, got up the next morning and watched Troy. Tate went over there and did some things for 45 minutes the day of the game. The game turned at 4 o'clock. And then we played one of the best second halves we've played all year. Go figure. And we had played great defensively the previous 3 games. App State now is looking like they're an offensive juggernaut. And
they've won 4 in a row since you've played.
Since we beat them up there, and they couldn't score against us. So we need to do that and have that type of defensive effort Thursday night against Little Rock. It's a big game for us. It's a big game for them. They're fighting for their lives up there this year, and we're close behind them in doing that. So we've got 10 games left. We've got 6 at home. We need to play better at home. We won our 6th game of the year on the road the other night. So I can't argue with our fight on the road and what we're doing. I'm like anybody sitting in this room and anybody in town that doesn't like where we are. We've given up 3 or 4 games at home that we should have won. I know it. Our players know it. Nobody needs to remind us of it. It's not something that we forgot about. It keeps me up at night. So any of those type of comments don't need to be said. It's like our players. They need all the encouragement they can get. We need to encourage them as coaches. I've got some time now to teach. Like Brian's schedule was talking about, what is the best thing to do? You don't really know sometimes, but you go on what your experience teaches you. So we came back today and we lifted hard today. We had a good session in the weight room. We watched an hour of tape about the positive things that we did against Troy. Now we'll come back tomorrow and we'll go on that floor tomorrow and we're going to get after it. And I told them that. We will go hard Wednesday, but not as long. And we should be ready to go Thursday night, and I expect our team to play well. Our players expect to play well, and they're excited about playing the game. The last 2 years, we've handled Little Rock pretty easily here. The TV guy came in and interviewed me today, and he said something about, the last 5 minutes of the game. I said, well, I hope we're up 25, and I'm crossing my legs thinking about what movie I'm going to see next at Malco. I've been there. Went to saw Sniper and that, I hope it's like that, where I don't have to really worry about it. But it's a rival game. Anything can happen, and it's a game that we need to win, and our players know it, we know it, and coaches know it, and we're going to give it our best shot.
You mentioned the second half against Troy, one of your better second halves of the season. You're down 11 at one point. You go on a 27-5 spurt after that. A 16-0 run was included there, and it wasn't the starters that were out there. It was some of the other guys that came in off the bench and really contributed. Guys like Frederick Dure, Nam was out there. Dejan McLean was a big part of that run. It was good to see some other guys step it up.
Well, it's too bad we didn't have Fred from the beginning. He's like an NBA guy now. He's just playing his way into shape. He was hurt for a while. He didn't practice for about 5 or 6 weeks. Then the NCAA wouldn't let him play for 15 games. So he's kind of been on the fly, and he's gotten better as he's gotten some practice in. And he's going to be a good player for us, as this thing moves along. And then even next year he'll be good for us. Nam played a good game. Anthony Livingston played well. He was non-existent against Lafayette. He had one of his worst games of the year, and as we all did. And I probably didn't coach it very well either. But our team's fine. Our spirit of it's good, and we're excited about playing, and we're looking forward to it. And hopefully we'll put our another 2 good halves like we did against Troy. The second half, I'd like to play 2 of those back to back. That'd make our team really tough to beat.
We got plenty of questions to get to from the audience here at Upper Crust. We'll do that when we come back. We're live with John Brady, Red Wolves basketball. We'll continue in a moment. We got more questions for Coach Brady here. Actually, we got a big stack of questions we need to get to here, and it is time for.
I don't have to answer them all, do I?
Well, answer what you want.
Right.
Lynetta Pilkington and Maddie Stewart both want to know about the health of your team, and I guess since the start of the season. I know Fred Dure had a little bit of a groin injury while he was out for that 15-game stretch, but for the most part, your team has been able to be healthy.
Well, he had a partially torn quad muscle, which is a little different than a growing pull. No big deal. But our team, our health is fine. We got that stretch, got a little tired, I think, and we weren't playing a lot of people. Now I'm gonna try to play some more folks. We did the other night, and it helped us out a little bit. And Anthony Livingston went down the other day in that Troy game. Now he did play it, but we had they checked his knee out today and gave him a little injection. They're going to have an MRI on him tomorrow, but it's not going to be anything serious. We're just doing that really. I want him to know mentally where he is because, a lot of these guys get worried about something they shouldn't worry about, so I'm going to prove to him he's fine. But he's going to be fine. But other than that, we're fine. We got little nagging things here, a cold, got a little fever here, whatever, time to time. But I don't ever make an issue of that. It's just something every team goes through. So. But there's nothing major with our team. We got the rest we needed, I believe. So we'll practice good tomorrow, and we're where we need to be. We're not where we need to be from a won-and-loss standpoint. Obviously, there's still 3 games out there that bug me. But again, we've got 10 left, and everybody in the league is beating everybody. It's not like one team has run away with it. So somebody could win 4 or 5 in a row, and you're right back. The top 3 teams in the league, so it's not like it's off the chart. People say this or that, doesn't bother me in the least. In fact, I thrive on that. For somebody who doesn't know anything about what they're talking about and assume things, really motivates me. And so I don't even. Not even gonna worry about it. So we're good though. I like our team. Our team's fine. We hadn't won a couple that I know we should have won, and they know it. Our players know it, and they're our players. That's the thing about it. They're ours. So we're gonna do everything we can to play as well as we can do Thursday night and see what happens.
That health update brought to you by our friends at St. Bernard's. John Masters is here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And our buddy John wanted to know about P.J. Hardwick. Mm-hmm. Will he continue to shoot a little bit more, or is that depending on the defense? Of course, he had a lot more shots in that game Thursday. Shot 17 times in that game at Louisiana Lafayette.
Yeah, it was too many. He doesn't need to shoot 17 times. He needs to shoot about 5, maybe 6, and then because that's 17, that's 11 shots Anthony Livingston doesn't get, or Cam doesn't get, or Sean doesn't get. So I'd rather those 3 guys split those 11. He shoot his 5 and then try to make everybody else better. But the nature of that game was so where any stat against Lafayette was distorted because of the way the game went. So I don't really put a lot of emphasis or stock into any of those statistics after that game because it just got away from us. So I would rather read into what he's doing. And the other night, he knows this too, is we made the run the second half without him in the game. So that's not all bad. Got a little competition there now, maybe something developing, and somebody has to play a little bit harder and defend a little bit better, which isn't bad to have.
Kerry Brown is here from Jonesboro. Kerry wants to know, Coach, can you comment on how Charles Waters is playing? His stats don't seem to reflect his great effort on the court. And Charles is a guy that started the last 5 games for you now.
Well, he's athletic. He's learning how to play. He's never been coached. He's just got a long way to go in terms of his basketball IQ, but I don't fault his effort. I don't fault his ability to run and jump. I think he's finding his role. He'll shoot an open shot, and then he scores it off the post from time to time. But I think he's more of a kind of a junkyard dog sort of guy. He get tip ins, get loose balls. He had 2 big rebounds down the stretch at Troy up over the rim, and he's one of the only guys we have, or a couple of guys that we have that can get up over the rim and go get one, and he did that against Troy. So, I like his energy. He's getting to be a better defender, a more intelligent defender, and it's just some time before he needs to learn. He hadn't played a lot. But I think there's something there for him to grow into and be taught and get better. And I think these 10 new players that we have, they'll be better next year simply because of going through it together and playing together. So, they're good enough. We add one more guy or two to what we have, I think the team will be fine.
Gayla is here from Black Oak tonight. She wants to know, is there a circumstance where Kelvin Downs, Nahum Bakum, and Anthony Livingston would be on the court at the same time? That's a really big lineup. Could you see that happen?
Well, I don't know if they haven't, at a time. They may have at one time. I'm not sure, but probably not for extended periods simply because of matchups with the other team. There's not many other teams like that. And then offensively, that means Kelvin Downs would probably have to play a 3-spot offensively, and I'm not sure from a skill standpoint that he's good enough to do that. So it would be rare. We'd have to play zone. Maybe could play a little man. Kelvin can guard a little 3, but offensively would be our biggest issue is who shoots the ball from where and what type of perimeter action we'd have. If I saw that lineup, I'd probably go zone and, pack it in there and say, y'all shoot it, and we'll just go rebound it when you miss it.
We're going to take one final break, be back to wrap things up with the final 5 minutes of the program. When we come back, we're live with John Brady at Upper Crust. Stay tuned. This is Arkansas State basketball on the EAB Red Wolves Sports Network. Back to Upper Crust Pizza on Shelby Drive in Jonesboro. We are wrapping things up on this edition of Live with John Brady on this Monday night. Been having a lot of fun out here tonight. We're going to get to another question or two before we get out of here. Want to remind you one more time about that huge doubleheader coming up Thursday at the Convocation Center. The women's game at 5, and the men's game will follow at 7:30. Of course, you can hear the men's game right here on the EAB Red Wolves Sports Network. The women's game will be on 95.3 The Ticket in Northeast Arkansas. Then on Saturday, the Red Wolves back in action as they travel to Georgia State. The women play at 11 a.m. Central Time. The men will follow at approximately 1:15 as we're rejoined by the head coach of the Red Wolves, John Brady. And let's see, Ken Stewart wants to know, basically the same question for Coach Boyer a while ago. He wants to know, can we look for a lot of trapping on defense against UALR? Is this a team you want to trap a little bit?
Little Rock doesn't turn the ball over from a statistic standpoint very much at all. In fact, they're
second in the league.
Yeah, they're second in the league in assist to turnover ratio in a positive way. So they're not a team that really turns it over. We pressed a little bit at Troy the other night just to take some time off the clock and let them have less time to work the ball for a quality shot. We may do some of that against Little Rock, but they're not a team that you turn over and that you can press, but we may do a little bit of it just to take some time. Also, when they get down on our end of the floor from a defensive standpoint, they'll have less time to possibly get the shot they would like.
Bob Faralasco is here tonight, and he wanted to know the size of your smallest player. Now, this is up for debate because P.J. Hardwick is listed at 5'11". Now,
5'8".
5'8". We're going to go with that. I think that's probably a little bit more accurate. P.J. Hardwick, 5'8", Bob. And one more question. Maddie Stewart is here from Jonesboro. She wants to know, Coach, do you see anybody on this team that's really taking a leadership role right now?
Well, that's one of our issues. We don't have that consistent, leadership. I think leadership's about giving, and that's a lesson that we needed to learn, and that was part of my speech after the game against Lafayette, particularly next morning when I thought about it, about what our team needs, and where leadership comes from and how leadership is supposed to take place, and it's all about giving, and leader doesn't really put himself first, he puts everybody else first. It's the old Zig Ziglar theory, you help enough other people get what they want, you eventually get what you want because you've gave and you've given, and that's a lesson we need to learn, and we showed some of that quality in the game against Troy. Hopefully it'll carry over on Thursday night.
All right. Need 6 cards here. Coach, will you do the honors here? Let's draw 6 of these.
6 of these.
We got a bunch of stuff to give away tonight. Thanks to Textbook Brokers for bringing 3 of these prizes tonight, door prizes.
3.
Something you can always win from Textbook Brokers every time you come out to the program. Next time we'll
6.
have Live with John Brady coming up a week from tomorrow night, 7 to 8, right here at Upper Crust Pizza. Lynetta Pilkington, Gary Kinder, Gayla Schoenborn, Ken Stewart, also Lori Clements, and Barbara Nelson, all winners tonight out here at Upper Crust Pizza. And again, thanks to Coach Brady for bringing some of the prizes tonight as well. For David Wofford back in the studio, for Coach Boyer, Coach Brady, I'm Matt Stokes. Good night, everybody.